Hey everyone, we are live. We're going to be joined by Russ shortly. It is, we're going to do a really short thing. Mike's up in, of course, in Toronto, right?
That is correct.
Mike's up in Toronto, getting ready for the big game tonight.
At an undisclosed Starbucks deep in the bowels of downtown Toronto.
Fantastic. Looking at my notes over here, I got so many things. Oh my God, holy cow. This is crazy day. I was thinking someone taught this pretty good ideas. I thought was pretty funny that we should do like the pre-show should be like done in like a different mode where we do like this kind of thing for pre-shows, and then not like the pre-show. So when people who want to fast forward through, you skip to the other.
Yeah, we could do that.
So we're gonna do that from now on, guys. So when the actual show starts, we'll go to the other view. But we'll start like this. That way, people who are watching things can get.
I think that's good.
It's a little loud there, obviously, but you're going to mute when you're not talking here. Bringing Russ in right now. All right, Russ, hey.
Hey, actually, give me 1 sec. Sorry.
All right, no problem.
You're going to go.
So, yes, this is how in the future what we'll do, for those of you just watching, we're going to have this like be the pre-show mode. So if you're not interested in the pre-show at all, you'll be able to pre-show at all. You can fast forward through the YouTube thing until you see us in this mode, which is the actual show. All right, does that make sense? Everybody like that idea? That way you have an optional thing. So this will be the pre-show mode, and this will be the show mode. So we'll just be going back and forth between those. And then there's this mode, which is the Eklund's more important mode. And that means I'm everything, and you folks are just nothing. That's how it works. And then now Russ is gone completely. There we go. So there you have it. I wish I could figure some of these things out. It's a fun program. We're working on it. All right. We're gonna mute. Mike's gonna mute himself when he's not talking. We already figured that out. And yeah, there you go. There you have it. Let's get to it. Will you guys have anything to talk about before the show today?
I do.
Okay, good. Let's start. Go ahead. Start talking. We're live.
Okay.
So
I knew they were live.
We're live.
So the NFL has now gone to a 17-game schedule. With a 17-game schedule, now have 6 wild cards.
Okay.
I do laugh how with some of these other stations now, they're sort of saying, well, half the NHL makes it. And like, no, they don't. That used to be the case, but it's not the case. This is going to be tough because players are going to get injured. I don't care about the extra bye week or whatever they're going to give us as nonsense to do something about it. It's going to make them money. It's going to be harder for like a Tom Brady to stay healthy. I almost expect 1 or 2 games now to be quarterbacks every season by the backup quarterback, which then to me is like lowering the price of the ticket that you're paying for that game if you're not getting the starter. I think we're starting to get into that territory now when we're talking about the NFL. And of course, now on the radio, they're like, well, it's the #1 gambling league. And it's like, sure, that's why they are what they are. But the players, it's not the #1 league for the players. It's not.
No, it's definitely not. They just alone, the fact that you don't have like guaranteed contracts in the NFL, I mean, my gosh, anyone who thinks that's a good player league is insane.
Well, what this is proof of is that the NFL are whores. That's really what they are, because they've, I don't think they care about these players and their injuries. I don't think they care about concussions. They've settled concussion lawsuits. Now it's let's get an extra week of programming, probably with 2 bye weeks. I don't know if they said if it's going to be 2 bye weeks or 1 bye week, but probably with 2.
I'm guessing 2.
And yeah, and that'll spread it out. That'll spread it out, Russ, to 18 weeks, probably.
That's 18
so,
weeks.
I mean,
that's what it is.
Right. Right. And honestly, I mean, if you wanted a watered down and remember, when the NHL had 16 playoff teams in a 21 team league, people thought it was ridiculous. Now it's a 16 playoff team in a 31 team league. And since everybody's going for expanded playoffs, again, I say next CBA, you're going to have a play-in game in the NHL. That's the way it's going. That's extra revenue. They're going to do the same thing. But the NFL have just proven that they are the biggest whores in the world.
I mean, end of the day, I think you're going to have a 9-8 team make the playoffs. I think that since the way they do it, they don't do 1 through 8 kind of situation. This is all going to be great until they get a fluky Super Bowl. And I think a fluky Super Bowl is coming with this because, Eck, if we go back to hockey and back when they had the crossover, that was when we had fluky playoff matchups and the fluky – I don't know if it was a fluky Stanley Cup that year. I can't remember, but you had fluky playoff matchups.
Yeah.
What year?
I think the NFL's
what year? What year?
When they had the crossover for the playoffs.
Yeah.
You mean the 1 through 16?
Yeah.
Well, it was
One of them
80 was the that was the Islanders dynasty.
That was the Islanders. Well, the Islanders began the dynasty, so that was a crossover year. I mean, that was like I think the Flyers finished first. They played the Oilers. The Oilers were 16th then that year. And if I remember right. Yeah,
and they beat Montreal.
Yeah, I think the first 16. Obviously, listen. I mean, it's better in some ways, and this is hockey content. So let's get on with the show here.
That's fine.
Here we go. Ready? Again, for those before I get into it, go to patreon.com/hockey and if you can support us, we'd love it. We're going to do a special show tomorrow afternoon around 3:00 that we're going to tape and it'll be airing on Saturday, but you'll be able to watch it a lot when it's done live with us tomorrow if you're a Patreon member. So patreon.com/hockey. We'll also be having a show tomorrow before that, our regular show. But we have 2 shows coming tomorrow. It's a lot going on this weekend. We're getting into the fun times here, guys. So let's get into this stuff here, and I will start the show. So we're going to shift into this mode, which means we are in real mode or show mode. Are you ready? All right. And the date is. I'm terrible. Here we go. Ready? Hello, Hockey World.
It's 20. Go ahead.
Here we go. Hello, Hockey World. It's Thursday, February 20th, 2020. 2020.
I'm Michael Agello in an underground bunker somewhere in downtown Toronto.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Eklund. You're watching HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday at this time to fill you in on the comings and goings in the hockey world. And I don't even remember now. It's hard to remember if a trade happened since we last talked. There's so many trades going on. I don't think anything has happened.
No, I don't think so.
Well, no. The Alec Martinez deal got finalized after, the minor leaf deals that were made, Max Verino and an AHL deal, but really nothing. It's slowed down a little bit. And I have to tell you that Dennis Malgin, who the newest Leaf, who is going to play tonight against Pittsburgh, he was asked by another reporter, how close he was with Austin Matthews. And he said, well, we were fairly close when we were in Switzerland because we were the 2 youngest guys on the team. But we exchanged an occasional text message the first year we were in the league, and then really only time we've talked is like on the ice. So they're not best buddies.
No, but I don't think it's best buddies as much as it is. This is a guy who, and he's not going to say that anyway. He doesn't. No one wants him to think. I think that's kind of an unfair question. No, if you're a player, you yourself. You can if you're a player, you definitely don't want anybody out there thinking that you're just here because Austin Matthews wanted you there. But at the end of the day, it's not just coincidental that they got him in there.
But they're not going to end up on the same line either.
But I think there's no question that that maybe Dubas already liked him and he's going to go to Matthews and Matthews is going to say, yeah, he's responsible defensively, he's a good guy, he's he's going to say all the right stuff because he was a teammate with him. I mean,
I think he's going to help the team. I really do like the minutes he plays on the ice. He doesn't make mistakes. I think that'll bode well. I do want to talk about the Verano deal, though, because I watched him for 4 years in Princeton. And look, Ottawa's a mess. So when he went to Ottawa last year, actually, he did okay. I think he had like 5 points in 12 games, something in that nature. And I thought that was pretty good for him. Then, this year he's down in Belleville. Now, Belleville, I get it. They're a first-place team. I don't know what line he's playing on or who he's playing with, and they're working with his strengths. But I just got the feeling that he probably was sort of lost in their system a bit. This guy can play. I mean, now just because you're a top liner in Princeton doesn't mean you're going to be an NHLer, but He has a lot of NHL transferable skills. He's very fast. He's good defensively. There is a knock on him, and I challenged a scout the other day because he was using an older report on him saying that, well, he's just like from the outside. That's the only way he tries to score. It's not really true. He was like that for about 2.5 years, and then it started to click that he started to shoot from a lot of different places. So I think it's a situation where, next year he is going to get a shot to make the team, and I think that's another reason why they put a 10-game NHL condition into his contract, because he is that close. This is a very shrewd pickup by Dubas, one that most people don't get because they don't watch Princeton. Like, I'm there every year for the last 15 years, so they don't get to see a lot of this player. But This is a guy who definitely can develop, and maybe by next year could do something for him. Nothing big, but a good role player.
We have a trade.
Okay. Go ahead.
Pause it for a second. So, yeah, it's a minor league trade, but I think maybe more than a minor league trade, maybe more interesting than that. All right. So the trade is the Pittsburgh Penguins have acquired from the Montreal Canadiens Riley Barber and Phil Verone in exchange for Joseph Blandisi and Jake Lucchini. So we're looking about four AHL players here. But the difference is the thing I like about this is the Riley Barber aspect. I like Riley Barber a lot. I thought the Canadians played him the wrong way. He is from Pittsburgh as well. And every time I saw Riley Barber was up, I think earlier this year for a little while in Montreal, and I was so impressed, but his minutes were so low. And whenever he was on the ice, though, I watched the game where he played in Pittsburgh, his first time in Pittsburgh. He was playing for the Canadians, and he was just making things happen every time he was on the ice. But he was on the ice like playing really low minutes. I think this is a little sneaky move that the Pittsburgh Penguins might have made here.
Yeah, Barber's a good player. Barber was lost in the cap system for sure, and probably wasn't utilized correctly with Montreal. Yeah. He skates well. He does everything well. He's not great at anything, but he gives you all effort all the time. You want to look for like a 10, 12-minute guy to give you a max effort and maybe get you a few shots on goal, maybe get a few points every once in a while. He's that guy. So I really do like this as a pickup. I'm with you. Phil Verone, he had his moment. He had his moment with the Flyers. I think he's more of a quadruple A guy personally.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I actually think that if somebody's going to get fourth line time in that trade, it's going to be Verone over Barber, because Verone has got experience, and Barber, he had a couple coffee with Montreal. He had a little time with Washington, not a lot. If in a playoff scenario, I think if you're looking for a fourth line guy, it's probably going to be Verone over Barber. But maybe
I think you're right about that, but I don't think Verone's better than Barber. That's my other point.
I think you got to give Barber.
You're right about that, because that's why they got him.
Yeah, I think Barber was the key player in the trade, according to what I was told. So, whether or not he played 9 games with the Canadians this year.
Let me just finish up on the Leaf thing. Yeah. I was told today, Russ, that Verano is going to be probably with the Marlies the rest of the year. So the 10-game aspect is not really a big thing. And they probably will.
Next year, it's only for this year.
It's only for this year.
Oh, okay.
And the thing is, if he doesn't break the 10 games and he re-signs, the draft pick, which is a 6th-round pick, doesn't factor in. It's if he plays 10 games and he resigns. It's one of those. So it's basically a 1-for-1. And Aaron Lucic was an ECHL, played mostly in the ECHL, so it's not really a factor for them. The other minor trade, and we can talk about it because it was a Ranger deal with Philadelphia, was the JF Berube deal to where Berube is going to go to Hartford. I know, Russ, you talked about the Rangers needing a goaltender at Hartford because they called up Shesterkin.
Right. Yeah, and they did. And so Berube's good. He's better than some of the other guys. He's better than Thomas McCollum, I can tell you that. Yeah. I think the Flyers just got McCollum just because to get a guy, but McCollum will be, very marginal. Berube, this is good. I mean, this is now the key is, will the Rangers call up Berube next year to play some NHL games so they could leave him as the sacrificial guy for Seattle? They might.
We still don't know. We still don't know what the limitation is in terms of how many games a goalie has to play for him to qualify for the expansion draft. So I'd like to find that out, because if it's 10 games, there's no way J.F. Berube is playing 10 games.
No, I agree.
Yeah, I'm not.
But what if it's a career game aspect? He's played pro games before.
It could be.
This also shows the Flyers, and I've heard this, have gained a lot of faith this year in Alex Lyon as a guy that they really believe, could be a backup for them down the line.
He's not signed beyond this year. I don't know about
this year, but I kind of expect he will be. Just from talking to people and hearing that, there was a lot of impressed people with the way he played in the few games he played this year for the Flyers. That he looked like he was. He's always had like a rebound issue, but he is very quick, and can be dominant. Can get hot. The one thing to look for as a goalie is do they have the ability to get hot, and he has that.
No, I like the kid, but he hasn't really shown me that he could stick in the NHL. The thing about Berube, I looked it up. He played 34 NHL games. So I kind of wonder if there's a threshold that he's close to with that. Let's say they have to play 40 NHL games, then they might do it. I do want to talk about, because Mike mentioned to me on New York radio, they were talking about the Rangers trading Lundqvist, and I think that is the longest of long shots. Nothing's impossible in this world, but I don't think Lundqvist is going to all of a sudden right now say, yeah, I'm okay, you could trade me. I don't think it's going to happen. I think if anything happens, he may do that next year at the deadline, which is his last year, but I don't think it's going to happen this year. And so to me, it's not worth talking about. But Eck, I don't know if you've heard any rumors
today. I heard about it today. So I definitely was my article today was and I did hear, and I don't know what I wrote was that I heard that there were discussions ongoing really preliminary, but as to whether or not, basically Colorado did call about him.
Mm-hmm.
So Colorado called about him. So the Rangers said to Colorado, that was portrayed to me through Colorado. Rangers said to Colorado, well, we're going to have to decide whether or not we're going to go to him with that or not. And that's where it was left. So like whether they go to him with it or not is still undetermined. Is it possible they do go to him with it? I think that they probably will. Knowing fully well they're not going to ever strong arm him, and he knows that. So he feels secure enough that they could say, hey, Colorado's a pretty good team, and they, like we talked about yesterday, they need a goalie, and you could go there and actually maybe win a Stanley Cup in your career, and that could be something that you're interested in. And we thought we'd at least tell you that option was out there for you. I think that's what's going to happen. Whether or not Lundqvist takes that option or not, probably not, right? But
I can't see him doing it in the middle of this year, but maybe he'll decide over the summer that if he gets treated like that again, maybe he'll give it one go. But to do it now doesn't make sense to him, because then next year he starts the year he's not in New York. And next year he would start the year in New York, and that's better for his family. So I'm just thinking about it in that regard, and that's why I think it's more of a next year thing, if it happens at all. Remember, Mike Richter's never been traded either. He ended up retiring with a skull fracture. People revere him. I think Lundqvist sort of wants to go that same way that Richter did and be revered the same way. And if he gets traded, it might change it just a little.
Yeah. I mean, I think that matters to him a lot. It does. I think he wants to be, I heard you say on XM the other day, Russ, that you think he's the all-time best.
He is.
And I think that, that part of that might have in his head might be like, he's competing against Richter, in his head probably.
Yeah.
And sitting there and say, okay, Richter was here the whole time. Along the Rangers lines, though, the other rumor I did write about today that I heard about was that the Leafs have talked to the Rangers about DeAngelo, which is an interesting turn of events. I think there's a defenseman. Whether the Rangers, we never know. DeAngelo is such an enigma right now. But I guess first to start with Mike, do you think he would be a good fit for them, Mike?
He would be the worst fit, because he's another offensive defenseman, and they need somebody who can play more two-way hockey. I like DeAngelo. I think he's a good defenseman, but he's going to be paid after having a really good year, and the Leafs don't have a lot of cap space. And B, he's the wrong type of defenseman. He's a defenseman that they have already, like Tyson Berry, and they'd be paying for somebody who will not help them in their end goal, which is to improve defensively. So I'm not doubting that maybe they kick the tires on it because he's $925,000, but I don't think the Rangers are trading him unless they're going to sign Kreider, because the rumor is that they sign Kreider and then they probably have to clear out a couple of guys like Buchnevich or DeAngelo who could make big money next year.
Right. Russ, on that?
Well, two things. DeAngelo's defense has improved, so he's really he's not like a Savard or even a Barry in that regard.
Yeah.
Not because of the +15, but because he does have a physical nature that comes out once in a while. The teammates love him. And so, end of the day, I don't think he's going anywhere. The Rangers could certainly work a deal with him. I think this year they strong-armed him a little simply because they didn't know what to expect out of him. Now that he's had this 45 and he's going to end up with 50-something point year, they're going to sign him. They honestly, there is no possible return on his own that's going to make them say, yeah, we have to trade D'Angelo, and it definitely can't come from the Leafs. You know, are the Leafs going to really give up a Kapanen for that? I don't think so.
Yeah. I don't think they should either in that situation. The Flyers, a couple of rumors with the Flyers today that I haven't written about yet, but I'm working on. One is the Flyers' interest in Eric Stahl, which is a little surprising, I think, but it does make some sense. They're definitely looking for a center. Nolan Patrick, this is like Nolan Patrick is done for the season type move for sure.
Well, did you hear there were quotes from Fletcher on SiriusXM, which basically said if Patrick comes back, it's a bonus. They're thinking he'll come back, but they have to operate independently from that. So that to me is GM speak, like they don't think he's coming back, they're not going to activate him. And I agree with you on that front. The problem front here is at 3.2, now you're going to ask the Wild to retain, I don't know, $1.3 million, something like that. To do that, it's going to cost Philly a good prospect. So let's say it's going to be Isaac Ratcliffe and a pick. I don't do it. I don't understand the mentality in this organization to try and make the playoffs at all costs. And if you're adding Eric Stahl, that's what you're doing.
Yeah. Now on a lesser thing, I've also heard they have had discussions with Montreal about Nick Cousins, which bringing him up, which I know he was here before, but I think
all I know is right now in the last 3 days we've heard Eric Stahl followed by Jeff Carter and now Nick Cousins. I mean, I'm just the Jeff Carter one makes absolutely no sense, and probably there's no, and I respect the hell out of Elliot Friedman, so I don't doubt that somebody told him that, but I don't know how that, you guys know the Philadelphia scene.
called Philadelphia on Jeff Carter. That's what I was told. That was all that happened. It ended there.
Okay.
No, and whether or not it is kind of bizarre because you think, and whether or not they even knew whether or not Jeff would actually go to Philly is another story. Maybe they thought that they could, if Philly had interest, then they would go to Jeff. That's probably what they would do. They probably wouldn't go to Jeff ahead of time and say, "Would you go to Philly?" Because it's pointless. They'd rather him not. They'd rather knock it out there that he denied a trade. So you want to go out there and make sure you have something beforehand before you even get any further. But it's not.
I hate to break it to Rob Blake because Rob Blake has done a pretty damn good job with the deals that he's made for Muzzin, for Alec Martinez, and for Campbell and Clifford. But you're not getting rid of Jeff Carter and you're not getting rid of Dustin Brown. Those are boat anchor albatross contracts that you will never get rid of.
Yeah. But of course, guys probably heard the Gossip Spears heading to Lehigh Valley for a conditioning stint.
Well, I mean, at this point, he has to do that.
Yep.
Let's talk about this. Johnny Gaudreau didn't have the Calgary Flames on his profile.
Yeah, temporarily didn't. Now, it could be anything, but it's
could be him just reorganizing his social media.
This time of year, Russ, that plays into the world. That's like, this is like, so-and-so's brother was at Wawa and heard that the house is up for sale. It's that kind of
Russ.
That's the world.
This comes on the heels of Stefan Diggs, the wide receiver for Minnesota, taking down all references to the Vikings on his Instagram account. Can we stop interpreting somebody reorganizing their friggin' social media as them being on the verge of being traded?
Right. It may not even be him doing the social media.
Yeah, that's another thing that it probably isn't. I don't think Gaudreau is necessarily. I don't see him as like a social media guy.
Me neither.
So it's probably not. It's probably not him. You're probably right about that.
Yeah.
I mean, but this I love this kind of stuff this time of year. This is like my inbox is so full of this kind of stuff. You have no idea. Like I really should just for some time have fun with it. Like the amount of people I get, if I say this, I'm going to get more of it, but the amount of people I get that send me things like this is just unfreaking believable. And
I
have a good story for you guys. Okay. So I'm going to say this as a public address too, because I'm really getting inundated with things right now. And there's a lot of people out there that work for the team or have a friend who's player, whatever, a lot of Hockey Buzz fans, and I appreciate it because sometimes they're right. I mean, sometimes these are actual people who are, but it's so hard for me to I can't go off of anything like that. I can't write about anything like that because until I know for sure you're real, or I have a way of, and I do have ways that I go about it. Like if somebody tells me they're a friend of so and so, I will of a certain player, I'll contact that player. And try to figure it out from there. A couple times I've done that, or in one case, like a guy I'm talking to right now who had 2 trades that I did not write about that were really that were good, solid trades, but I didn't write about them. He had them way ahead of anybody else, but I didn't know who he was. And I'm like, after the first one, I'm like, hey, maybe you got lucky. After the second one, I'm like, yeah, I got something there. I'm going to listen to you a little bit, and then we actually get into justifying, but. It's just amazing. Stop pretending you're somebody else, and or fake accounts. Always crazy.
Well, I wrote about this today, so I'll put it out there on the show. Just because of my observations and being in the press box in Buffalo and knowing other people in other press boxes. A couple weeks ago, when the Leafs when the Sabres were playing the Montreal Canadiens, Leafs director of pro scouting Dave Morrison was at the game. That in and of itself is not that consequential. Toronto and Buffalo are an hour and a half apart, but it just sort of piqued my curiosity. The Leafs played Ottawa and Buffalo last weekend, Saturday and Sunday. On Tuesday, Morrison and 2 other Leaf scouts were at the Ottawa Sabres game. So it made no sense that they were there for any kind of pro scouting, for future games, because they're done with Buffalo, and I think they have one more game with Ottawa. So it had to be them scouting one of the 2 teams who are both sellers. And since Morrison was there for a Sabres game a few weeks before, I zeroed it down to the Sabres. If you take that into consideration, I don't think the Sabres are trading Ristolainen inside their own division. I don't think they're trading Brandon Montour inside the division. But Colin Miller, who the Leafs have liked for a few years, who played for Sault Ste. Marie for Kyle Dubas, who's a right-handed defenseman, who's under contract for another 2 years. That sort of clicks all the boxes that the Leafs are looking for. And the Sabres are basically looking to get rid of him because he's not working out in Buffalo under Ralph Kruger. So will that happen before Monday at 3 p.m.? I don't know, but I would be surprised if it doesn't possibly happen during the summer. But it's interesting that because we know that the Leafs have been interested in Miller at least twice. Once before the expansion draft when he got picked up by Vegas, and once when Vegas was trying to trade him last summer. Yeah. So I think that there is interest there.
Okay. One thing, I just got this text from somebody that there have definitely been talks today with the Winnipeg Jets and 2 other teams involving Dustin Byfuglien. So it does sound as if the Jets are at least trying right now to trade Dustin Byfuglien.
I can't imagine that. Yeah, go ahead, Ron.
I'm going to just mention, Eck, how 2 years ago on this show, I said to Peter they should trade Dustin Byfuglien because he was a declining asset.
Yeah.
And now here we are. His value is so low that I don't even know if a team will bother to trade for him. Because honestly, if you don't trade with Winnipeg, there's nothing they can do but buy him out, and then you could just invite him to camp. Like, why am I even spending an asset on a guy that I'm going to look at on the ice for 10 minutes and try and determine if he could even play NHL hockey this year? Because I'm going to tell you, there's probably a 30% chance he could even play hockey this year.
Yeah, no, there probably is.
Well, what this tells?
Yeah,
go ahead. What this tells us is that the rumors a couple weeks ago of there being a termination of this contract probably was misreported, because why would they be trying to trade him if he was going to get bought out?
They couldn't work out the termination. I mean, that's that's what I think is more likely. I think that there was a termination of contract that they were working on, and then they couldn't work it out. So now they're stuck trying to trade him. I think that is very possible. I think
I do want to report Jeff Carter's got an LBI, so he pretty much did the Flyers a favor now.
An LBI, oh my god!
Because now he'll probably come back after the deadline. Watch.
He cut his big toe. He cut his big toe on a seashell. That's what happened.
Yeah, you joke, but I'm not so sure. Another player that told me the Flyers had interest in, because I was doing some Flyers research today, was Tatar out of Montreal. I don't know if that's necessarily a good fit. The Flyers are definitely looking for a center. That's for sure. And that does point towards Stalls, and an interesting one. But to give up, like you said, Russ, how much you have to give up? A lot.
A lot.
I think that's going to be really hard. Corey Snyder's been called up.
But
Go ahead.
I was going to say, it sounds though from the names that are coming out, it sounds like the Flyers are looking for. They're not looking for a number 3 center, they're looking for a number 2 center. And unless your name is JG Pajot, there's nobody like that on this market right now that doesn't have term left. So I mean, again, if I was the Flyers and you're looking for a third line center, I would go to San Jose and see if you can get Melker Karlsson probably for a third or a fourth round pick, which I think would probably be something that San Jose would do. And he would win you faceoffs and play a pretty decent number 3 center. You are not getting a number 2 center like Eric Staal. Eric Staal is going to be the number 1 center in Minnesota next year when Mikko Koivu retires.
And let me shoot down the Chris Tierney for the same reason. Ottawa's not giving away Chris Tierney either. He's still an RFA, and he's a guy who had 40 points a year ago. I don't know what he's got this year, but he's a guy who skates really well and plays hard. Chris Tierney is not the kind of guy the Flyers are going to be able to get cheaply.
The Senators are not trying to make that many trades. I'm talking to them.
So these are just guys getting mentioned then.
Yeah, the Senators like where they're at, when you watch the Sens, it's hard to blame them. There's some.
No, their play isn't bad at all. Yeah,
they have an interesting mix right now. They're not a great team, but they're definitely not a terrible team, and they're worth watching. Again, which has been something.
They're worth watching more than Detroit.
Yeah,
right. But to say that they're not looking to do anything, Pierre Dorian should be fired if they don't do anything. You've got guys like Hainsey and Nemestikov, and they've already traded DeMello. You've got 4 or 5 unrestricted free agents. Tyler Ennis that you can get value for. And I'm not saying value in terms of draft picks. I'm saying in terms of prospects coming back. Why would you not, when you're a team at the bottom of the Eastern Conference, why in the hell wouldn't you make those trades?
Well,
that's stupid.
I'm going to play devil's advocate here. If they are indeed following a plan that Eugene Melnyk is still trying to hold out, then they're going to have to hope that some of these guys develop. So then when they're ready to spend money, they have a cohesive team. If they keep trading guys just for picks, that's impossible, and that won't happen. So that could be a reason why. And
if there is some sort of if the coach is like, you know what, these guys, a lot of these guys are talking about are not very hard to re-sign either. They're guys they could, if they can convince those guys for the rest of the year that we have something good going here, and then they could get them to stay. That's where that might be worth more than a 3rd or 4th round draft pick to them. They can go and create that. That. They're trying to create something along those lines. Now, Louis Domingue is on waivers today by the Devils. And
nobody wants him. Nobody wanted him when the Devils got him.
Called up. But, from the AHL. And the interesting thing, a couple things about that they're sort of intriguing. One, Corey Schneider's being called up. The Devils are getting very close to the salary floor, with some of these moves they're making. And if they were to move Wayne Simmons or Vatanen or Palmieri, which I don't think is going to happen, but if they were to move some of those guys, the Devils would fall below the salary floor. So they have to so Corey Schneider, makes some money. I think that could be part of this. I also think that I heard the Devils came close to actually trading Domingue, but they, somebody wanted them to take back something that they didn't want to do. So then and that's typically in that case, what you do is you try to put Domingue through waivers to see if someone would grab him without you having to take anything back. I think that Louis Domingue out there, he's a tempting character for me.
I don't think anymore. I thought that when the Devils picked him up, but now there's been no interest in Louis Domingue.
But I mean, is he done in the NHL? I'm not convinced of that.
He could be.
No, but honestly, I think if they're getting close to the salary cap floor, okay, you can bring that prevents that from happening. But you also have an opportunity if you're Tom Fitzgerald to take on a bad rental contract at a team like Alex Galchenyuk with Pittsburgh. They were looking to clear his salary. They They ended up putting him in the deal to get Zucker. But if they weren't able to do that, they were probably going to have to trade a draft pick to get somebody to take him off their roster. There are teams out there that are looking to clear cap space of a contract that's bad, and New Jersey could do that. So I think there's a possibility they're going to sell cap space before Monday.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Maybe. The couple things happening in March.
There is a breaking news, a small one.
Go ahead.
That Gabe Velarde is getting called up for the Kings, so he'll make his NHL debut. That's nice because he was the 11th overall pick in 2017. He's had a lot of back troubles, and this year he's finally played like 32 games. He had 25 points. So I'm really rooting for this kid because that's a good step in the right direction. If he could play well for the Kings and show them something at the end of this year, based on all the other trades they've made, the Kings are in a lot better spot than people think in the next 2 years.
Yeah, I actually they're actually a fun team to watch as well. Even already. A couple things. So McDavid is traveling with the Oilers on this road trip now, which is a sign that he's probably getting a little bit better.
So he'll root him on.
Or close to, the Oilers did lose last night.
He's only traveling with the team to get the per diem.
Yeah, right. Sure, I'm sure he needs it. So last night the Oilers did lose to Boston in what was a really fun game to watch.
Yeah, I heard it was a good game.
And some incredible goaltending on both sides in that game. I mean, Edmonton got some great goaltending in that game. And there were times in the second period where Edmonton just dominated the Bruins. And
I wonder who was in goal.
Well, it wasn't Koskinen last night. No. But it's nice to have two good goalies. Mr. Smith was really solid. And to get a point out of that game, that's
good for them. That they need that.
Now, what's interesting is Sam Gagner scored again, and he's had a couple big goals for them in this little stretch here without McDavid. And it just goes to proof that I always think Sam Gagner is a guy you just want to have on your team. I
agree. I think Sam Gagner can play a little bit. I always have.
Yeah, he's always gotten kind of a bad. Yeah. He's been all over the place.
Well, let's say this: Sam Gagner would be a great player on your team if he's making $900,000. At $3.1 million, he's not a great player.
I don't know. I think he's around a $2 million player. I think he's maybe $2.5 million player. He does score. He still has skill. He can step up into spots. Malkin's back in the lineup tonight, apparently, which is big. I mean, not that it's mattered. The Penguins have been playing amazing with whoever they have.
I'm sure that was welcome news to the Leafs.
Zucker, though, man, we talk about how good Zucker's been with Toronto. I mean,
who's surprised? No, Toronto, Pittsburgh. Yeah, who's surprised though? I'm not
surprised either. But I heard this amazing stat about the Zucker thing the other day that I'm not big on some of these kind of stats, but I'm not an old fogey either. But this was an analytics thing where they have this thing called how do they call it, the Golden Road goal or something like that, Golden Road pass where your receiver pass. And are you familiar with this idea?
I've never heard it.
A pass like that you can one time into the net. Like that kind of a pass. How many passes of that do you get? How many times do you finish on that? Like basically you're in perfect position to basically put it into an empty net. And Zucker in Minnesota this year received those passes 4 times throughout the whole beginning of the year and buried 2 of them. And in Pittsburgh, he's already received, in the short period he's been there, he's already received 5 of those passes and buried 3 of them. It just shows, the difference, with a great passing team, and that Zucker has the ability to play or be in the right position to bury goals. Like that's something. I mean, I'm impressed by it so far. Any thought on Ovechkin? Somebody asked me this today. Like Ovechkin's trying to get 700 again, and he's actually Ovechkin has done this before in his career, where he does get psyched out a little bit by these things.
There's no question he's psyched out.
He does get psyched out by these. I forget. I think it might have been 600, or it was another situation just like this where I remember it took way longer than it should have for him to get.
He'll never score a goal again.
Yeah, right. I know exactly. Yeah, well, there you go. It was okay. Someone actually said on the chat room, it was reported on TSN that as well that Winnipeg's trying to trade Bufflins. There you go.
Again, they could try and trade them, but what are they really going to get?
I think Shovel Dayoff is going to have to include an asset to get somebody to take $7.6 million a salary, a player making $7.6 million who can't play. I mean, I don't think, teams might trade for him because they think he can play next year, but still, that's a big hefty risk.
Yeah,
it really is.
Yeah, no, it is. It is. I just heard one of the teams talking to Winnipeg about Bufflin is Nashville. Just got that text. First of all, that's interesting because they really are rivals, very much rivals. Secondly, Ellis is coming back tonight, which is big for Nashville because it's been out for like 20 games.
Yeah, that's a massive thing for them.
And the Predators have been playing a lot better.
Yeah, listen, Russ, if it's Nashville and Winnipeg, I'm sure David Poyle is offering Kyle Turris for Buffalo.
Yeah. They would do that in a heartbeat, I think.
And Winnipeg's not doing that.
Although, let's face the fact that, Turris has been better under the new coach, but still not like, great by any stretch of the imagination at all. But, definitely better. I hope he keeps it up because, he's an important player and they're paying him a heck of a lot of money there. Big game again, the Flyers and Blue Jackets tonight. This is this is kind of the second of the back-to-back between these teams. Are basically neck and neck right now for the final two playoff spots in the wild card there. And the Flyers took them to task on Tuesday, really made Elvis look kind of bad. I mean, it wasn't really Elvis's fault, but on Tuesday night, but there were a lot of weird goals for sure.
Yeah, it's tough to stop a puck when it's shot off your head.
Yeah, just strange situations. But tonight's got to be an enormous game for the Columbus Blue Jackets. I mean, this is like one of those games they have to show up in this game. They really have to show up in this one. Let's see.
I mean, it's tough to when you're a team like Columbus and you can win games 2-1 or 3-2 because you play good defense and you get good goaltending. But it really makes your task tougher when you lose one of the best defensemen in the NHL in Seth Jones and you lose your top scorer in Cam Atkinson to be able to get those 1 or 2 goals. So, I'm not expecting Columbus to drop out of it because, I think I admire what they've done so far, but it's tough to overcome those injuries. And I'm going to be very interested to see if Jarmo Kekalainen in the next 3 or 4 days makes a move because he doesn't have a lot of draft picks to acquire players. He'd have to trade more draft picks, and now I don't think he wants to do that. So I know they have an organization that have prospects, so maybe he goes that way. But they need to add players.
They've got prospects. They also have Josh Anderson, I think, who is somebody that people do have interest in, right now. And Toronto being one of them. We talked about that before. But yeah, there's I think Josh Anderson is high, man. If I can get Josh Anderson, if I can sign him, like we talked about that too, of course. But if you can get him, I like that. I like Josh Anderson a lot. There was another little trade that the Lightning have acquired Anthony Greco from Florida in exchange for Danik Martel. That's again very minor league trade.
That's an AHL deal. Yeah.
Which team is Martel going to?
Martel is going to the Florida Panthers. Sorry.
That's interesting because Martel, if you plug him in, he's a really good skater and can occasionally make some scoring things happen. I kind of wonder if Florida's going to give him a chance. I don't know if that's strictly an AHL deal.
Yeah, you've always liked Martel.
Just for speed. For speed. I'm not a big fan, but there's a little bit that he could do, and Florida's desperate for some of that. Right,
interesting. Someone pointed this out to me. We all think of the Bruins being what they are. They're a great team. They've got 2 great goaltenders. They have now gone a calendar year without a shutout. How about that?
Yeah, but it doesn't matter because Tuukka Rask's having his best year. Who cares?
Yeah, I know, but I just think that
I know. That's something that some guy on Reddit decided to post.
Yeah,
decided to talk about it.
For sure. I just want to
that and $3 will get you a coffee at Starbucks.
Yeah. Someone was ripping me another thing from Reddit. Another red guy on Reddit you sent me this thing. One of the guys from Reddit Hockey. He's like, you don't pay enough attention to the season that JT Miller is happening in Vancouver.
We've talked about Miller being really good. What else have we
talked about? But maybe I wasn't on the show. Maybe personally, because I think this is because I once ripped JT Miller kind of unfairly because I put out there a tweet when the NHL Network was when he was on the Rangers, and they were saying, you know, the Rangers and JT Miller go into Philadelphia, and I just thought that was a weird player for them.
I remember that. I do remember that.
It was a weird player for them to pick in that situation. It's like, you know, it's not like Lundqvist, it's not like, you know, Kreider, it's JT Miller and the Rangers. You know, it's not like
a couple years ago, they said the Leafs and P.A. Parento because he was the leading scorer.
But, you know, Miller has 24 goals and 59 points, which is a career high. And he still has like 22 games to go. So it's really impressive. It is impressive. It was a really sneaky little pick that they did when they got him, you know, in Vancouver. So we'll give him that. Definitely. Absolutely. Let's see. I guess that's it. I think that's all I really have today. You know, we are going to be back tomorrow. We have 2 podcasts tomorrow. So remember this. We've got a podcast at 1, our normal podcast, where we will be talking all the rumors and getting ready for the weekend, because this is the final weekend going into the trade deadline. I would fully expect tomorrow night after like 5 or 6 to be crazy, because that is usually when things start happening. If you're going to make a trade, you make it on a Friday, you bury it kind of, if you're making an unpopular deal. So Friday night, that's a good time to bury it. But then at 3 o'clock, we're going to be doing a second podcast, which we'll be posting on. It's a special podcast. It's going to be really a lot of fun. I hope you guys can be a part of it. If you go to patreon.com/hockey, and just even if you give us like $1 or whatever, you think you get anything out of this show, that's how you can support the show, by patreon.com/hockey. But if you do that tomorrow, we'll give you in this. We'll throw the secret link in there so you guys can watch the taping of this special show we're doing tomorrow at 3 o'clock. So that's all the time we have for today, folks. Remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. And we will talk to you tomorrow. Enjoy the game, Mike. We'll see you then. Ending broadcast.